Okay.
Come on up, and if you can say who you are and if there's someone in particular you'd like to direct the question to.
I'm with the University of... Is this on? I'm with the University of Washington, and many colleagues went to New Zealand. And one of the problems that I've encountered in my life is just having the time to make decisions and having the time to think and to plan for those things that you didn't plan. One of the exciting things that came back was the way you developed the downtown in containers as a temporary, very viable real estate kind of retail market to give you time to think and to plan. And my question is, just for you to talk about that, but also how you are letting that area redevelop very kind of organically because you have allowed some temporary structures for that. So thank you.
Thank you. One of the big issues that we faced was the rebuild is around $40 billion, and it cannot all possibly take place in a very short period of time. And it's taken much longer. If I'm really honest with you, it's taken longer than I think any of us imagined at the start of the process. But what we realized was that there had to be something between where we were now and where our community wants to be in the future. And for that period of time, we have to sustain the businesses and we have to sustain communities. So we changed a lot of the rules very quickly. All of the central city businesses were completely closed down. So we said you can operate a business from your home. There's no planning rules anymore for a period of 3 years. Open up that law firm, that dentist shop, or a small construction industry in your garage, or whatever it is. We don't want a foundry in a suburban street, but we do want you to survive. And so what can we do to make that easier for you? And we also created a category of temporary buildings, because normally the full consenting and building process in my community is probably excessively bureaucratic and it's difficult. And it's of course now more intensively focused on safety than ever, because we're determined to build the safest city in the world. But how about allowing people to put up simple temporary structures? They have to comply with some basic rules, but it will keep businesses going. We adapted shipping containers, people used old caravans, they built small sheds, whole communities came out and created activities. Some people created just fun places. Someone invented a thing called a dancer mat, where they just laid out a whole lot of wooden platforms on the ground, and they got a machine that was powered by a small coin, and you could plug your iPod into that and it would play music, and you could dance on a vacant site where a building had once stood. So what we've sought to do is to allow the community to express itself and to get out of their way while they do that. And it's lovely that you noted that. And it's really about recognizing that this city belongs to people, but at the same time, we, in a leadership role, can't take our eye off the bottom line. And we have to sustain both the economic activity, but we have to also focus on the well-being of our people. So that's one of the things that we did to support that.
I have to ask one follow-up question. Those temporary structures in the containers, do you tax them, and actually are you making a...
No, what we've done is we've looked at all of, because our local government in New Zealand is powered by essentially property taxes. That's a very certain way of getting money. It's much better than a VAT type approach, because it's not dependent on the economy, although some people would say it should be more reflective of the economy. In this case, we treat that land as vacant land, and that has a very low rating property tax on it. You know, it's way down there, so it's just enough to share some of the services in the larger area.
I think we have a question here on my left.
Yeah, I'm Jun Palafox. I'm an architect urban planner. I was one of those Secretary Lacson mentioned the night before he accepted the job. And I confirm what we agreed on was the work is doable, but very challenging.
Huh.
And we thought that he would be appointed as rehab czar, like Dr. Contoro, and or like Douglas MacArthur for Japan, and Dwight Eisenhower with a Marshall Plan for Europe. Unfortunately, 9 days after, when Secretary Lacson was given the appointment, it was not going to be a rehab czar, but a coordinator. In emergency cases, I've worked in 38 countries, 3 of them, including Aceh, the post-rehab for Chuchi organization. And the words coordinator and committee are the worst vocabularies in an emergency case. So we have here Secretary Lacson like a CEO without a budget. And in some developing countries, government departments work like elevators without the floors. So it's quite a big challenge that I hope Mayor Bob Parker and Dr. Contoro may want to advise our leadership, the legislature, and the various departments with their own empires to maybe forget too much politics and too much red tape and only solutions in mind. Even our colleagues in the business community, maybe let's not be business-oriented. Let's be solutions-oriented. Thank you very much. I'm a member of the ULI.
Thank you. I'm not sure if there was a question there, but do you feel you
It's
have
recommendations
do you-
from
do
both
you-
experts.
Not having a budget, I think, is a blessing. So far, I'm getting the cooperation and support of the line departments. The President has been very supportive,
Yeah.
and I can still maintain what I said when we were talking after I was appointed. Failure is not an option. So I'll do whatever I can with the help of all sectors, government included, to finish my job and do it through its logical conclusion.
Yeah. And I supported Secretary Lacson because he was the only senator who did not take his pork barrel. Thank you.
That's commercial.
Actually, Dr. Contor, did you, when you got this job, did you feel you had the authority you needed, or did you kind of try to exercise extra authority?
I flew to Banda Aceh with all the power that I needed,
With what? With all the power?
with all the power. So the first thing I did at the time, in front of the NGOs, 800, bilateral, multilateral, and I told them, now I'm the authority. I'm the one who make decision here, together with all of you. So they know where to go if they have a question. And that is a very simple but important decision I made.
Okay,
In
thank
my
you.
case, it's always preceded by a please.
Please. Question, sir.
Yes. Well, we're here this week to talk about resilient and livable cities. So the question I would have is, for all three of you, is each of the places you're talking about have, as do many cities around the world, have significant problems of lack of quality of life in the cities themselves, you know, traffic and congestion and pollution and lack of amenities and lack of open space and so on. So did you, or how did you take the opportunity of these disasters to reformulate the thinking about the future of your cities?
Well, that's a great question, because I think you have to be really honest as a community. You look at what has happened and the scale of the events that have happened both here in the Philippines or Banda Aceh are beyond the imagination of someone from my country. Our total population is only 4.5 million. The island that I live in has 1 million people. 500,000 of those essentially are the city around which we live. We had a beautiful old city that was designed in the Victorian industrial era, and in the space of 30 seconds it fell down. And therefore, out of tragedy comes an opportunity. And that is the role of leadership, in a sense. It is to try to focus the community at that point, because there is grieving and there is loss. And we will never be what we were ever again. Some things have changed forever. But it's harnessing that as an opportunity to go forward. Now, that's when you start to run into a few problems, because everybody's view of what it should be is going to be different. We ran a program because we knew we had to do something to lift our people up and get them focusing not just on the pain, but on what we could be. So out of this pain, there could come some meaning. We called it Share an Idea, and we got 20%, actually 20% of the community came in and contributed their ideas. And out of those ideas, we created a plan. We literally databased every single idea, and we did word searches, used some amazing software that we were put onto, and we came up with a superb plan for the city. We then passed that plan to central government, and they made a few changes along the way. But by and large, we've captured a plan which captures an optimistic vision of what we could be. What now remains to be seen is it cannot be implemented in a very short time. Will the community and subsequent councils continue to have both the patience and the courage to reimagine their city and build something that is purpose-built for the 21st century to replace the 19th century city we lost? And I guess you could say the jury is still out. We've made some significant changes, some great steps toward building a more sustainable city, but it does take continued belief in ourselves to get there. And that's going to be a long job, but the opportunities are great.
Thank you. I think we have time for two more questions. Dick?
Thanks, Tom. My question is to Dr. Cantoro. You mentioned that before the tsunami there was 25 years of guerrilla warfare and fighting. And how did the tsunami and the terrible loss of life and destruction of property lead to conditions that allowed for peace to come about?
Just tell the two parties, let's have a ceasefire to bury the dead. In Islam, you cannot bury somebody's dead for more than 24 hours. So that's the beginning of the whole thing. Stop firing to each other and let's bury all the dead together. Once they obey that, the ball start rolling. We are basically brothers and sisters. Why do we have to? Then the peace process started. So there's nothing complicated here. As long as your emotion is the same as with the other party, complicated things can be solved very simply. Just because of that, then the reconstruction can start. And I told those two parties, please do not shoot, because there are still some battles, okay? Please do not shoot my friends from other countries who are here to help all of us. Please don't. Especially those foreign workers. Because if one is killed because of your bullets, then the whole thing will stop. There will be no money more flowing to Aceh. And then they become very serious. They become very serious. The third part, now this is something that is, at that time was very confidential. I have to deal with the warlords. And this agency, it doesn't have a mission to make a deal with the warlords, okay? But without having a deal with the warlords, then I'll be in trouble. So actually, they are in my payroll. Almost 300 of them. So if you see the figure that my agency have 1,500 employees, basically 300 come from those insurgents, okay, that I should pay not to shoot anybody. So these are the things that you cannot tell openly at that time, okay. Now I can say it like this because I'm a government official, I'm a senior government official, so I can say it openly to all of you. But that is basically something that you have to be innovative. That's what I mean with you don't know anything. The first day, do you understand who you're dealing with? Very basic question. Pak Kuntoro, are you going to build houses for the TNI, for the army? Yes. For sure, as long as they are victim of tsunami. Are you also building houses for the GAM, the independent movement? Yes, as long as they are victim of tsunami. So all victim of tsunami, I will going to build houses for them. Now the question will continue. Are you going to use contractor that have a sympathy toward the GAM? How can I tell that they have sympathy or not? Okay. So it's your job to do that. But for me, bidding process is the only process that I'm going to follow. They come up with the best responsible price, I will hire them. They don't come with that, forget about that. So let's go to the basic and play with the emotion and this kind of things. Then you can go through all this easily, I believe. Thank you.
I think we're at our last question, please.
Thank you for giving the lady the last say. I'm Cora Claudio, Earth Institute Asian Management Association of the Philippines. Each one of us is a professional here, and we have our profile, our biodata. What I'm proposing, and I don't know if this is already being done in New Zealand and Indonesia, is for us to have a risk profile per local community, as low as and as small as possible, so that we can have a good idea eventually. Maybe in the beginning we will have a rough assessment of the risks that a local community faces. And if we can have this in a common platform, then we can build on it, improve it, and make our people understand what the risks are that they face. We have been producing a lot of information through our, for example, CLUPs of the cities, but these are in hard copies that are quite difficult to update. And I think it is basic that we have to understand so that we can have a good hold of the risks that we face, what the risks are. Here in the Philippines, we are now doing some risk assessment efforts, but in the Philippines and in many places, even in the Asia Pacific and in other parts of the world, we develop also different models that make it difficult for us to compare the resulting risk profiles. So I suggest that we develop risk profile per local community, and the time to do that is now.
You want to take that, Secretary Lux?
I cannot agree more.
Anybody want to add anything?
No, she's right, but but basically, when it comes to the community at the lowest level, even in one region, they have different aspirations. Some different culture. I'm responsible for Aceh and Nias. We always talk about Aceh, Aceh, Aceh. Aceh is Islam, Sharia. Nias is Christian. It's totally different. So when it comes to local community, you're dealing with a different local community. So, again, You just have to be sensitive and listen very carefully and watch very carefully what their aspirations are. And these are simple people. So, well, she's right, but it is more important to be close with them, to understand their aspiration. We are highly educated compared to them. Our language is different. Our understanding is different. Once you can have their understanding, their heart, then everything is simple. But before that, it's just technical. And technical sometimes is a recipe for failure. It's nothing technical. You're dealing with those people who are suffering.
Thank you. I want to just say very briefly a couple of last words. Thank you. First of all, before wrapping up tonight and something to think about over the next couple of days, we planned this conference with our partners, the Urban Land Institute, before Yolanda hit. It can't have escaped us in the planning that Manila and the Philippines generally have become even more poignant and significant as a venue. But several of us also noticed this morning, were reminded that we happen to be, again, this was not planned this way, but we happen to be convening this get-together on the 11th of March, which is a very, very poignant anniversary in another place that we haven't really talked about. It's 3 years ago tonight that the tsunami hit in Japan. And as a closing thought, I read a lot of articles just to refresh my own memory about all these disasters. And I thought I'd leave this discussion with one quote. I don't know the gentleman's name, but this was a physics teacher on the outskirts of Tacloban, who was asked about all the suffering that he had endured. He had lost a family member, and he said, "We will rise again. Our hearts are stronger than any calamities." And I thought that was maybe a nice way to end. So to all of our guests here, to the people of Tacloban and across the Philippines, to the people of Aceh and Nias, to the people of Christchurch and to the people of Fukushima and all those other communities, we thank you, we think of you, and I hope the next couple of days will help in some small way for the whichever communities come next. Thank you. Oh, sorry.